This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Welcome, everyone, to the new era of Melanin Mysteries. I'm your host, Tiffany, because, look, I'll be forgetting to introduce myself, and we're not about to have y'all confused if you're new here, okay? Now, before we get into anything, let me go ahead and give y'all a quick disclaimer. Ladies' night style. We don't do Dateline over here. We don't do narrator voices, and it ain't no in a small, quiet time. It ain't none of that around here because, yes, I'm going to cuss. And yes, I'm going to talk a little trash while I'm telling you this story. So if that ain't your vibe, respectfully, this may not be your podcast, and that is okay. But to my cousins, my day ones, welcome back, y'all. And I just want to say I truly appreciate every single one of y'all for rocking with me through this transition and still showing up and showing out. Because, baby, y'all could have went anywhere else, but you didn't. And for real, I do not take that lightly at all. Now, before we get into the case, I have a few quick things. So make sure y'all check out the new website. It's melaninmysteries.com. Go ahead, sign up with me so you can connect with me and get ready for the weekly-ish. And yes, I said weekly-ish because we're not putting no pressure on ourselves over here about relationships and crime. You can also submit case suggestions, cousin confessions, and yes, the cousin confessions are still 100% anonymous, so don't play. Because if y'all want to keep going, I need stuff to talk about. So look, subscriptions has its perks. So go ahead, sign up, tap in, because the subscriptions are available on Spotify and Apple. Make sure you're tuned in to both. And listen, if you are enjoying this show, I need you to leave a 5-star review. 5 stars, 5 stars. I ain't saying nothing about nothing else. You heard me say 5 stars. And if you got a grievance, you got a complaint, you got a concern, we don't do that in the reviews. You can hit me up on my DM. You can go to the website. So we're going to keep it cute and we're going to keep it classy, okay? All right. Now, outside of Melanin Mysteries, I am a full-time creator. And just to remind you that graduation season is upon us. So if you need banners, you need backdrops, you need grad cap toppers, you need stoles, you need grad tees, listen, whatever it is, I got you. Let me hook you or your grad up or both of y'all. I don't discriminate. So head over to mycraftingdreams.com and I'll also have the link in the show notes so you ain't got to do too much searching. Now, all right, we're going to go ahead and get into this case. Now, this week's vibe check song is Damn by Young Bloods. And yes, I'm talking about the explicit version. I don't do the radio edit one. So with that alone, you should already know that this is about to get a little crazy. And let me know if it passes the vibe check. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into the case of Latoya and Odis Dickens. Now, his name is spelled Odis, but in some places it's spelled Otis, but I don't know, Otis, it all sounds the same. And like I said, since it's still National Women's Month, we are still highlighting these cases that, when women, we crash all the way out in these cases. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're taking it all the way back to the late 90s, January 30th, 1999 to be exact. And we are in Atlanta, Georgia. Now listen. A 911 call comes in from a woman, her name, Latoya Dickens. And when I tell you this was not your typical send help, we arguing type of call, baby, no. This woman gets on the phone and tells the dispatcher, and she was very calm about it. She says, I'm about to kill my husband. Not Mike. She wasn't thinking about it. She said, I'm going to cut and I'm going to stab him if you want me to get specific with it. And then she tells him, y'all might want to go ahead and send the police over here. And she just hangs up like she ordered from Pizza Hut. Now, hold on. Because before the people can even finish typing the damn report, she calls back. 2 minutes later. 2 minutes. And this time she tells him she'd already stabbed him. Like, y'all wasn't quick enough. Y'all didn't make it here on time. Y'all, yeah. Ma'am. So you mean to tell me you called in the pregame and the recap? You didn't even give police time to grab their keys. And at this point, what was the purpose of the first call? Was it a heads up? Was it a trailer? Was it a stay tuned? Because this is really giving like, hey, I just wanted to let y'all know what I'm about to do. And then I hang up and then you call back like, hey, y'all, it's done. Just wanted to keep y'all in the loop. And I know them 911 operators had to be sitting there for a second like, now, why would she say it and then do it? Because people usually call when they're panicking. But this lady, she called up there with a plan in place. And then she followed through like she had somewhere to be after. So listen, let me tell y'all what really went down between these two phone calls. Because, child, this is where it gets so messy. So first off, we have two versions of the story. One comes from a newspaper and one comes from court documents. So you already know, same situation, just a little depends on who you ask type of tea. But this part right here, everybody agrees on it. Latoya and Odis, they have been into it. And not that no cute little we can make up later argument. No, this was very much so, I'm sick of your shit. Like she was fed up, been over it. Why am I still here type of shit? Because at this point, the abuse, it had gotten out of hand, okay? And what makes this even crazier, sis had been with this man since she was 13. 13. So this isn't a bad relationship. This is years of dealing with the same man, the same bullshit, the same patterns. So after they get into it, Latoya leaves the house to cool down. But let me pause for just a second because she had a car, okay? She couldn't leave because he had tampered with her car. She couldn't even leave like how she wanted to. Like she wasn't trying to be dramatic. Like she was legit trying to just cool off as she should. I'm not mad at her because sometimes you got to step outside before you end up on the 10 o'clock news. Like she did what she was supposed to do. Now what happened after that, we can't really account for, but hey. So like I said, she leaves, she gets some air, she comes back. And when she comes back, she's starting to pack a bag. And I'm like, okay, period. We choosing peace, we leave, and we are not going to crash out today. But then this is where it started going left because another argument ends up popping off. And this time they arguing about who's leaving the house. Now, mind you, they have 3 daughters. So now it's not just like I'm out. It's who's staying with the kids, who's packing, who's going. And you already know that type of conversation, it generally doesn't stay calm for long. Now, one version says that Odis went to sleep after this. The other version says, no, this man was very much still awake. So already it's giving somebody ain't telling the full story. But what both versions say is that at some point Odis hit her again. Hold on. Because this right here is the part I need y'all to lean in real quick. I need you to tighten up your bonnet, sit up, because you know that feeling when you've been dealing with somebody and you already tired and you done already had enough. And then they do one more thing and it was just like click, that light switch flipped over. And you were like, you know what? Fuck this shit. And that's exactly what this is giving, because paired with this week's vibe check, if you don't give a damn, baby, I don't give a fuck. And because this was not just another hit, this was the one where she stopped giving a fuck about what happened next. And when somebody gets to that point, you already know that's when things go from bad to it just ain't no coming back from this shit. So this is where it's about to get unhinged, so stay with me, because depending on which version you believe, the details switch up a little bit, but either which way, baby, she lost it, so boom. The very first version, like we said, Otis had went to sleep. As in he laid down, he closed his eyes, he minding his business, right? Minding his like own business. And in this version, it said Latoya walked up to this man and punched him dead in his face while he was asleep. Like, ma'am, you didn't want to wake him up again to argue. Like, you legit just said, if you don't give a damn, I give no fucks. 0 fucks are given. You just said we fight in your dreams and in real life. I mean, savage. Savage. So he wakes up. The man probably confused, disoriented, like, what the hell didn't happen? So they said the man grabbed her and pulls her onto the couch. And at this point, like I said, things are already out of control. I mean, if somebody just punched you dead in your face while you sleep, like you legit wake up choosing violence. Like you at this point, there ain't no calming down. So they said that he pushed her on the couch, and he goes to the bathroom. Now, Latoya, it says she goes into a kitchen, she grabs this knife, and they said the blade on this knife was about 8-10 inches, honey. That was a big knife. And this is when she makes that first 911 call. This is the one where she basically said, yeah, I'm about to do that shit. Now, while she's on the phone, like we said, Otis had went to the bathroom, probably trying to get himself together. Who knows? But anyway, baby, like I said, Latoya was not done. So, you go into the bathroom, and I think it's probably just second nature. You just close the door when you go into the bathroom, whatever. And baby, they said she kicked this door. But listen, that first kick, it apparently didn't do what it needed to do but you know how when that adrenaline hits your system, baby, they said she karate chopped that goddamn door, and she got in. And when I say she got in, she went in. There was a struggle over the knife, so it wasn't like a little quick moment. It was a little bit of back and forth. But she did manage to stab him multiple times. He was stabbed in the left side and in the chest. Now, hold on, because like I said, we have two versions. So the second version, just as wild. But in this one, he was not asleep. But they were still arguing. And again, during this argument, Latoya just hauled off and punched this man straight in the mouth. I guess she said, shut the fuck up. I don't know. It wasn't no warning. She was just like, bow. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but the visual in my head is just sending me, because I'm just like, she really said she don't give a fuck. I'm just tripping, but right. So it says again, this version 2, he pushes her, he goes into the bathroom, but then this version, it said that he was bleeding. I don't know if he was bleeding in the first version. It didn't say that, but in this version, it specifically said that he was bleeding. So now you got tension, you got blood, you got emotions high as hell. And that's when, like I said, Latoya went full on Hulk on that ass on that goddamn bathroom door. Like, girl, what did the door even do to you? And like we said, once she got in there, sis, it was the same outcome. Like she started stabbing the man. But what takes me out is what happens next, because according to the report, it said after she pulled the knife out of him, like physically, like took it, pulled it out, and she called 911 again. And that was when she was like, they were like, so ma'am, so we got call number 1, I'm about to do it. Call number 2, I did that shit. Like, this is a 2-part series. So no, this is not normal escalation. This is not things got out of hand. This is really somebody had reached a point and then just kept going. I know y'all sitting there like, wait, what? Because child, we not even halfway through this mess. So while all of this is happening, Otis is on the floor, bleeding out, nose bleeding, you're bleeding out your side. This is just blood coming from everywhere. But look, Toya, she ain't hiding. She ain't panicking. She just politely is going to sit there and wait for police to pull up. And when they get there, Otis is still alive.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Cologuard. Do you know what's really scary? Not screening for colon cancer when you turn 45. The Cologuard test is non-invasive, requires no special prep or time off work, and ships right to your door. In just 3 simple steps, Cologuard takes the scare out of colon cancer screening. If you're 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about the Cologuard test. Cologuard is available by prescription only. Learn more or request a prescription today at Cologuard.com/screen.
On fighting for his life on that bathroom floor. And I know this is petty. I know it is. But one day I'm going to grow up. Just not today, though. And I just picture her standing here in my head, like standing there just glancing over at him like, bet you won't do that again, huh? Like just bothered, like full on Angela Bassett and waiting to exhale when she lit that man car off and walked off and threw that cigarette. Like that's just how I imagine her vibe to be when all this went down. Like that type of calm. Now, I'm sure when the police got there, she told them exactly where he was. Like, yeah, he in the bathroom on the floor. Knife still on the floor when the police pulled up. No confusion. And then she politely broke down what happened. Because at this point, what is there to lie about? Like, you already called these people twice. So they really, I guess she was just like, well, shit, let me just go ahead and, tell y'all what happened. So they go ahead and Mirandize her on the spot. And like I said, they arrest her the same day. It wasn't no delay, wasn't no, we're going to follow up. No, baby, it was the same day. And just like that, this situation goes from a domestic dispute to a full blown attempted murder case in the span of a few minutes? Yes. Spiraled really fast, huh? So now that we've gotten that chaos out the way, we're going to back things up just a tad bit because we need to talk about who Latoya and Otis actually were and what led up to all of this. Now, we really don't have a lot of background information on either of them, to be honest with you, but I'm going to give you what I got. So Latoya was born Latoya Walton. Like I said, the pickings were very slim on her. Like barely anything. Like we know she had a mama, obviously, because girl, we not about to sit here and act like she appeared out of thin air. But even in later reports, like they don't even like name her. Like, and there was no mention of a father either. So already is giving, like I said, not a lot of background, not a lot of support being highlighted publicly. But what we do know is that Latoya was from Louisiana. And that's all we got on her. That's about it. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about Otis. His name was Otis Eugene Dickens. And he was born on October 10th, 1967. And just like Latoya, like I say, information is very scarce. Like I don't know what these people not doing obituaries or whatever. But I need y'all to do this because I've been needing some background information, especially in the 90s. Like I said, I'm digging in this, giving mind your business. But like I said, he was also from Louisiana. And this is where things start getting a little side eye worthy because the two of them met when Latoya was 13 and Otis, he was 17. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, go ahead and pause just like I did because I know just like y'all did and y'all have the math in y'all heads, I did the math too because 13 and 17. Uh-huh. But not only did they just meet, like I said, she was 13. She got pregnant and gave birth before she turned 14. And again, I have a 14-year-old child. I couldn't even imagine. What would my kid do with it? What would my Lord? I couldn't even imagine. So anyway, this relationship started off fast, young, and like I said, very complicated from the get-go. And they end up having 3 daughters, Shamika, Erica, and Angelica. Now, from what it looks like, all 3 girls were possibly born before they got married because Latoya gave them her maiden name, Walton. And even after she married Otis, she didn't change their last names. So I don't know if that means anything definitively, but I'm saying just interesting because most of the time, like people usually give their daughters the last name, or even if they would have hyphenated it, especially after they got married. But I mean, hey, I don't really care. Ain't none of my business. But like I said, I guess this just said shit, I'm good. And we just gonna leave it right there. In 1992, they actually moved to Metro Atlanta. So, new city, fresh start, allegedly. But that fresh start didn't change the pattern because there had already been a paper trail of domestic violence involving Otis and not just in one place. By the time they got to Atlanta, we got at least 2 cases, and we're talking DeKalb County and we're talking Gwinnett County. Okay, I have a question about Atlanta. Like, so because I noticed this when like I hear people talk and I know I got like a lot of people in Atlanta. So why do y'all call is this like is there cities inside these counties, or you just like describe everything as a county? Because like we'd be like, oh, you're in Cleveland, oh, you're in Maple, like we'd say cities. So I don't know if it's like a Georgia thing. Like somebody help me out. I'm just curious, just wondering. So anyway, I said this wasn't a one-time incident. This wasn't he slipped up once. This was documented behavior. Like it was repeated, it was recorded, it was known. And then when you put all that together, met at 13, had a baby before she was 14, they have years of being together. There's multiple kids. There's history of abuse. Yeah, this just did not come out of nowhere. This is a situation that had been building for years. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the scene because, baby, it still don't stop there. So Otis, he gets rushed to Gwinnett Medical Center. And when I say it was bad, child, it was bad. So they said the doctors had to remove a portion of his lung during surgery. Like, so this wasn't like a no, patch him up and send him home type situation. It was very much giving, we trying to save this man's life. And for a second, it looked like he might have pulled through. Like, maybe. No. Unfortunately, he died 2 days later in the hospital. So we're going to run this back real quick just in case you missed something. because it escalated real quick. We went from an argument to a stabbing to an attempted murder to now murder in a matter of days. Right. Mm-hmm. So now Latoya, now she's not, sitting in jail on a attempted murder charge. Now she's being held without bond, and those charges were upgraded to felony murder. Whole different ball game now. And while all this is like unfolding, we can't forget that she has 3 girls in the middle of this: Shamika, Angelica, and Erica. And now their father is gone, their mommy is locked up, and their entire life has just been flipped in 48 hours. Like, imagine going from a 2-parent household to nothing but questions and trauma. Now, I'm sure that these kids have seen a lot of things, between their parents while all this has gone down. So they've already been through a hell of a lot at this point. So Latoya's mother steps in, and she ends up taking all 3 of the girls back to Louisiana with her. Thank God for that, because maybe somebody had to do something. But I ain't even gonna lie, this part right here is kind of heavy, because whatever was going on with Latoya and Otis, whatever pain and anger and history was there, those kids still lost both of their parents at the same time. And they lost one to death, and they lost one to prison. And just like that, this really ain't a crime story anymore. It's like a whole family destroyed in real time. But let's go ahead and get into the legal side of this mess, because child, it only gets spicier. So boom, look. Latoya is officially indicted in Gwinnett County on April 4th, 1999. It wasn't a light charge either. It was felony murder. They said, oh no, we're not about to play with this one. Now, mind you, we said Latoya had already given a full confession, and then, ma'am, you made 2 911 calls and told the police what happened as well. So at this point, you would think it's like an open and shut case, right? Case closed, just go ahead and wrap this up. No, we're not. Because she's still going to trial. And this is where I raised my eyebrow a little bit, because somebody had a couple coins tucked away, because sis did not have a public defender. Y'all know she had a private attorney. And if you know anything about murder trials, they are not cheap at all. You have to have some coins in the bank for a retainer at minimum. So I'm like, okay, Latoya, who funding this one? Because that type of defense is an investment. Now, her attorney's name was Walt Britt. I don't like that. Walt Britt. Don't like it at all. Whatever. I don't know. It doesn't flow to me. Whatever. But he didn't come to play, okay? Because the trial didn't even start until August 21st of 2001. So she spent about, 18, 19 months in jail. But he ain't come to play, like I said. They had time to get their ducks in a row. And when I say that the defense, they came in ready, I mean, they was ready. They had witnesses lined up. They had people prepared to testify on her behalf. And they were going to go with the battered woman defense. And listen, based on what we already know about the history, that angle, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it makes sense to me. But then let's not forget the prosecution. They got something to say too. So here comes the ADA. His name is John Melvin. And he was like, yeah, no, we're not doing that. And he made it very clear that this ain't a, she just snapped type situation in his eyes. No, he said this was cold, this was calculated, and this was murder. If you say so, sir. But this right here, let me stop inserting my opinions in the situation. But this right here is where it gets real interesting, because now you got 2 completely different stories being told. You got the defense saying this is a woman who was abused, she was pushed to her limit, and she finally broke. And then you got the prosecution saying absolutely not. She knew exactly what she was doing. And it's up to the jury to decide if this was survival or if it was revenge. So yeah, this trial, child, it was about to be a show. This is where the courtroom really started getting real. And I need y'all to stay with me on this one, because like we said, her whole defense was the battered woman syndrome. And this wasn't something they had to reach for, because the proof was already there. It was loud. It was documented. It was years long. Like I said, this woman had been with this man since she was literally a child. He fathered all 3 of her kids. And according to what was presented, she endured 14 years of abuse. 14. Can you imagine what that does to your mental? She was still a child when she got with him. So her attorney even brought up an incident. Look, y'all, she was 8 months pregnant, and this man threw her off a fucking porch while she's carrying your baby, sir. I don't even know no extra context after that, because if I would have heard that on the jury, I'd have been like, let that woman walk. Let her walk. Let her live her life. She snapped. I don't want to hear, you ain't got to tell me nothing else. But because to me, that tells me what type of time you were on. Like, yeah, that tells me what type of time you were on. Latoya, she took a stand in her own defense, and she ain't danced around it. She was like, look, she's like, yeah, I killed my husband. He had been beating on me. She walked the jury through the abuse, how it got worse, how it escalated, how it didn't stop. And at some point, she fucking snapped. But this part right here, it pissed me off a little bit because, like I said, the reason that she was even walking that day was that man had taken the battery out of her goddamn car. So not only are you beating me, but you're controlling whether I can leave or not. You doing too goddamn much. And then, like I said, she said he was cussing her out. He was calling her a whore. He was telling her he couldn't take his eyes off her for a minute. And then it turned physical. Like, he threw her on the floor. He sat on top of her and he started beating her again. How much did you want this lady to take? And that was it. She said she was done. Like, not a, I need a break. Not I'm thinking about leaving, but I'm fucking done. And she said while she was walking, she already knew, like, she's like, this is the end of my relationship. Like, I can't take this anymore. She was like, I want a divorce. She was ready to just be free. She wanted to live her life. The lady wasn't even 30 yet. And I don't blame her. And, the defense, they backed her up. They didn't just take her word for it. They had witnesses. They brought in her friend, Jacqueline Rogers. She testified that she had seen Odis beat Latoya at 2 different parties. And at one of them, Latoya had 2 black eyes, a busted lip, a bloody nose. Now, can you imagine being at a party and somebody beating you like that in front of everybody? Like, y'all saw this shit and just kept going? Nobody tried to help. Like, I mean, I don't know what the situation was because she didn't go into context about that part. But to me, that's just a whole lot. Yeah, because I said we weren't there. I don't know, and it didn't give much context. But, they brought up the prior domestic violence arrest, DeKalb County, Gwinnett County. None of this was hidden or wasn't a secret. This was known behavior. This was a pattern. This was a cycle that nobody really stopped. And then they brought in experts to explain battered woman syndrome, to show how years of abuse can literally change how you think, how you react, how you survive. So the defense is basically saying this woman didn't just wake up and choose violence. This is what happens when somebody is pushed past their breaking point for years. Now, the prosecution gets up there and they like, we ain't buying none of this shit. They said the battered woman syndrome didn't apply here because according to them, it only works if she was in immediate danger or completely mentally broke from the abuse. Okay, let me run that back one more time just so make sure we are both on the same page here. According to them, it only works if she was in immediate danger or completely mentally broken from the abuse. Do we have two totally different definitions here? Because I'm not sure which more you need. You literally just said exactly what the defense just said in different words, but that's exactly what they just said. But then they're like, okay, they pointed to the 911 calls, and to them, that was the smoking gun. Like, they said that those calls showed planning. It showed intent, that she wasn't reacting, that she was going after him. Like, she had already decided what she was about to do. And then they bring in a neighbor. Her name was Torshana Howard. In this part, this was like real sad. She said that one of the daughters came to her house after everything happened and said, my mommy just stabbed my daddy. So yeah, that's really not something a child should ever have to say. So Torshana had actually called 911 too, and they ended up playing that call in court too, along with they played Latoya's calls as well. And on the call with Torshana, you can hear the dispatcher trying to walk her through how to help him, like how to slow the bleeding, what to do. But this lady said she couldn't even find the wound. And she was like, this nigga too big for me to turn over. So I don't know if she was just panicking. It was just blood everywhere. She was confused. It was kids involved. The whole scene was just chaos.
This is your fix.
I am your host, Stassi Schroeder. Welcome to Tell Me Lies, the official podcast. What's the most unhinged thing of season 3?
Steven, because he's so evil.
I do think he is misunderstood.
You see everyone face consequences.
It's intoxicating. The writers just know how to trick you. There's always a twist in this show. Tell Me Lies, the official podcast, January 6th, and stream the new season of Tell Me Lies, January 13th on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
If you're chasing data down instead of seeing it in one place, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite. All your data in one place with built-in AI for real-time insights. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Okay, and then Latoya probably just sitting off to the side like, Just she didn't give. I said she didn't give a fuck at that point. She was checked out. I mean, she was checked out. So basically, after both sides rest, it ends up going to the jury. And child, let me tell y'all, they was not in there long at all. 4 hours. After all that testimony, history, abuse, 4 hours. And you would think that with all the evidence they had, that they would come back. No. Mm-mm. Latoya is found guilty of felony murder. And she is sentenced on August 23rd, 2001 to life in prison. Y'all gave this lady life in prison after this man done beat her while she's pregnant with his kids. He has tortured her. I ain't trying to be funny, but I feel like he preyed on her because a 17-year-old and a 13-year-old, two totally different mindsets. A 17-year-old, you're literally on the verge of adulthood. You're so far removed from a 13-year-old. It's not even funny. I've had a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old, and they were on two totally different wavelengths. So he preyed on that girl. But I don't know, for some reason this jury thought that, I don't know, but they gave her life. So they said Otis's family was there, but they didn't say anything about the verdict. They didn't speak or do any victim impact statements or whatever. And sometimes, you know what, that can say more than any speech ever could, because like, I'm sure y'all knew what he did to that girl. I'm sure y'all knew. Y'all had to. So just like that, years of abuse, one moment where everything boiled over, 2 911 calls, and a trial full of he said, she said, and what really happened, ended up with a life sentence. Now, I know y'all gonna have opinions on this one because this one was not cut and dry at all. But this is where the courtroom really getting real, because let's go ahead and fast forward, because baby, this story did not end with just her sitting in prison and that just being that. And now, while all this is going on, let's not forget about those 3 girls. We're still in the middle of this. So at this point, they had been living in Louisiana with Latoya's mom. And I'm sure she stepped in with good intentions, but she ended up saying that raising all 3 of them was just too much for her. And listen, I mean, 3 kids, their teenage years, going through trauma like that, it's a lot for anybody. Okay, we hit another shift because enter this melanin redacted Christian couple. Their name was Cheryl and Ronnie Kinney, and they owned a Christian bookstore, and they ended up learning about the girls through a Christian prison ministry. And this is one of the moments in life, where life just be connecting people in the most unexpected way. So they step in, they take the girls in, and it was supposed to be temporary until they found a permanent home for the girls. But they ended up keeping them. They became their permanent guardians until decided to raise them until they turned 18. And they actually had their own set of kids too. And it was a transition, like the girls mentioned in an interview about, people were asking like, how do y'all feel about living with white people? And I mean, I'm sure it was awkward, but like the girls like did mention that they were very thankful, and it God works in ways. So, they ended up, like I said, they actually made it official. They applied through Gwinnett County Courts in November of 2001, so it wasn't informal. Like, they really did it the right way. And like I said, at this time, like, these aren't little babies. These are girls who are very aware of what had happened to their family, because Shamika was a junior in high school, Erica was in 9th grade, and Angelica was in 7th grade by now. So imagine at that age, just, trying to go to school, be normal. Your whole life got turned upside down. Now you're living with a whole new family. It's probably a culture shock. It's just so much. Like I said, and they had already been through so freaking much. But, they still kept in touch with their mom. Like, they would write letters, staying connected the best way that they could. Because, like I said, no matter what happened, that was still their mom. So fast forward to 2005, and Latoya files an appeal. And y'all already know how that went. It was denied. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. They do not be playing around with these appeals. Like, I feel like they don't even be looking at them. They just be like, nah, fuck it. They just be like, yeah, no. She stays in prison. But one thing about Latoya, she was not about to just sit there and accept this as her life. No, ma'am. She kept fighting. Now, while she was at Arendelle State Prison, she ends up meeting attorney Janice Mann. And let me tell you about something about this attorney. This is the kind of person that you want in your corner. Because Janice said, oh no, we're not letting this story stay like this. And she got to work, like boots on the ground, paperwork was flying. pressure being applied, I mean, she went to work. Janice even reached out to the Gwinnett County DA and asked him to write a letter on Latoya's behalf for her parole hearing. And let me tell y'all something. This lady was denied parole several times. And if you're asking the DA to write a letter, like that really doesn't happen every day. That's when you know somebody really done dug into your case and said something is not right here. So they end up getting the letter, and they get it, and this takes years. Years. Like I said, the appeals process started in 2005, and like I said, she had a couple of parole denials. This took years, and by the time that they laid it all the way out in that letter, when they finally got it, they talk about how Latoya had her first child before she even turned 14. They talk about how her entire relationship was full of abuse, physical, sexual, emotional, just like the full toxic trifecta. And then they made it clear this wasn't a cold, calculated, I woke up and chose violence type situation. This is a woman who had been controlled. She had been broken down. Like, the woman was exhausted and had been for years, to the point that she'd even thought about committing suicide because she was just that damn tired. And then this is the part that really matters. I said she already decided she was done. She wanted that divorce in January of 1999. She was ready to go. But Otis, he wasn't trying to let her go nowhere. And let's be real for a second, because this is important. According to the Center for Relationship Abuse and Awareness, 75% of domestic violence related homicides happen when someone's trying to leave. That is a ridiculous amount. 75%. 75. That is 3/4. The statistics are horrendous. So that moment when you think just leave is actually the most dangerous time. So now all of a sudden this case is starting to look a little different, don't it? I don't know why the jury didn't see this years ago, but hey. Now after years of fighting, letters being written, people are finally listening, and her story is being told with full context. And she's granted parole after a 2022 letter to the Georgia State Board of Pardons and Parole. And in September of 2024, she walks out of Arendelle Transitional Center after all that time, 25 years. Crazy, right? Now, don't get it twisted, because she's still on probation for the rest of her life. My God. But she still has rules, she still has structures. But the most important part is, baby, she is home. And when she got out, she spoke right there, gave an interview, and it felt so real. Like, she said she had been waiting on this day for so long, and that she never lost faith it would come, that she was ready to see her family. She was ready to face the world. And the story that people think they know, it ain't even the full story. And she was like, look, this is not my final chapter. She said she wants to help other women, especially the ones on the inside, because they deserve a second chance too. I feel it on that. That really touched me. Like, I feel her on that. And like I said, when she came home, child, she came home to 13 grandkids. 13. I am so scared of that. I'm like, look, when you have multiple kids, they have a possibility of having multiple kids. I got 4. Don't have all these goddamn grandkids. First of all, I don't even want one grandkid. Like, I am not ready at all. I think out of all of my friends, I'm the only one. Okay, I have one friend, she doesn't have any kids. But other than that, out of all of my friends, everybody has grandkids. Everybody. I am not ready yet. Like, and everybody's all hyped to be a grandparent. And I'm like, look, I'm not ready yet. Like, look, I'm just about to turn 40. Like, I'm still in my I'm just not ready. I don't want anybody to call me granny, grandma, nana. I don't know when I'm going to be ready for that, but I'm just not ready. And I have an adult kid. My oldest will be 21 this year. And I'm over here like, please don't come here and tell me you're pregnant. Like, anytime I'm having, I'm like, oh Lord, he about to tell me I was pregnant. I'm just not ready. And I know and everybody's like, my daughter's like, it's not about you. And I get that. Like, and I have to realize that I had my kid young. So the possibility is there, but I don't know. It just don't even look fun to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It probably is me, but I'm okay with that. I'm just not ready, and I'm willing to accept that I'm just not ready, and you can't make me be ready. So anyway, like I said, she came home with these 13 grandkids, and like I said, you got a whole tribe waiting on you, and I'm sure they were ready to love on her and all that. So I ain't even mad. Like, it. In that situation, she needs that tribe. She needs to be surrounded by love. And I love that for her. So honestly, from what I've seen, she looks good. Like she looks happy. She looks like, baby, I don't look like what I've been through. And I love that for her. And it looks like she's really taking advantage of her freedom. Like it looks like, according to her Facebook page, she started a cleaning business in 2025. So come on, entrepreneur. Come on, I'm rebuilding my life and minding my business era. I am here for it. Okay. So the part that had me like, wow, because after all this happens, Georgia ends up passing a law called the Survivor Justice Act. And what it does, it allows domestic violence survivors to ask for reduced sentences if they can prove the abuse played a role in the crime. Now, let me say this real slow for the people in the back. If that law had existed in 1999, Latoya could have done less than 10 years. Less. Instead of the 25 that she actually served. So yeah. And Georgia ain't the only one. Oklahoma, New York, and Illinois have similar laws too, because people are finally starting to understand that everything is not just freaking black and white. And everything ain't just right versus wrong. Sometimes it's survival or trauma, or it's just years of being pushed until you freaking snap. In this case right here is exactly why these laws exist now. And sadly, like I said, I wish Mississippi had this law because, our girl Khadijah, I don't mention her much, but we are still very much in contact. And I spoke to her mom last week, but that was, again, a situation in regards of how you feel about it. She was still a victim of domestic violence. It is what it is. Argue which maybe not me. So now listen, let's go ahead and circle back to that vibe check, because like I said, this week's song was Damn by Youngbloods. Like I said, the explicit version, if you don't give a damn, we don't give a fuck, not the if you don't give a damn, go and throw it up. No, we don't do that around here. That is boring. I hate edited versions of songs. But after everything we talked about, I really think that song came from like when I was reading it, said she went and punched that man while he was dead ass asleep. Like that was the first thing that popped in my head. It was actually between that or Nuck If You Buck by Crime Mob. I don't know. Those were the first two songs that came to me when I was reading that. And I'm like, I went back and forth with which one I was gonna do. And I actually like did it with like the Crime Mob, and I ended up taking it out, and then I redid it with Youngbloods. But yeah, that's gonna be my theme for the rest of the year. If you don't give a damn, we'll give a fuck. Like that, period, dot. So let me know if this passed the vibe check for y'all, because baby, this case, it's fitting a little too well for me. Or if you have something else that you think would have worked out good, shoot, tell me that too. Let's say, let me know in the comments or over on social media. I'm Melanin Mysteries Podcast on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. You can join the private discussion group, Love, Lies, and Alibis, Melanin Mysteries Facebook group. So y'all already know where to find me. And if you're enjoying the show, especially my Apple listeners, because I feel like I need to call y'all out, please go ahead, leave a 5-star review. And like I said, 5 stars only. Please don't play with me, because that really helps more cousins find this show and join the family. So make sure you share this episode, the show in general, with a friend, a cousin, your play sister, your mom and them, because this right here, this is a girl, let me tell you what I just listened to type of story. And listen, I got one more thing for y'all that I haven't announced yet, but I'm announcing it now. I'm going to be doing a subscriber only live show. It's going to be a ladies' night in type vibe. So make sure you're signed up, because membership definitely got its perks over here. And before you go, like I said, drop it in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this case, because I already know this one has got opinions. And just remember that hearts break, the alibis don't. And I will see y'all on the next episode.